my presentation on the board update and school lunch crunch newsletters. I'll go over how to edit these pieces of communication and how to make the most of them. As an overview, the board update and school lunch crunch newsletters are meant to communicate the exciting happenings in your kitchens and cafeterias to people within the school district. They are meant to highlight all the positive things that Nutri-Serve is doing. Our goals for this presentation today are to 1. Understand both of these documents, as well as the similarities and differences between them, and also understand how to edit them. 2. We'll go through a live demonstration of editing and inserting pictures in the documents. 3. We'll list some best practices when it comes to completing them. And 4. We'll discuss how these can be disseminated to the correct audiences. Let's start with the board update. The board update is a monthly update explaining corporate happenings, many promotional days, district-specific highlights and student quotes, as well as providing a link to a food service survey. It's geared towards the business administrator and school board in your district. This can be a very valuable piece of communication as it gives you the chance to showcase all of the hard work that you as the food service director, in conjunction with Nutri-Serve, are doing to constantly improve and innovate, try new things, and provide beneficial experiences for your customers. So this can be very helpful at contract renewal time, as the business administrators and school boards are the ones making the decisions. The board update templates are released by the corporate dietitians in the beginning of each month, and they focus on the month prior. So for example, in the beginning of October, the corporate dietitians will release the template for the September board update. The templates are emailed out and also available on SharePoint under the corporate dietitian page. Here are screenshots of the board update. It is 2 pages. Every month the content will change, but this general format will be consistent. There are sections on the board update that are to be completed by the food service directors and sections that are completed corporately by the corporate dietitians. So on page 1, we can see at the top it says Nutri-Serve monthly update. At the top right hand corner it says the month that this update is for. And then underneath that it says your school district. So this is something that the food service directors will need to edit based on what school district they're in. Underneath that, or the bulk of page 1, is the Nutri-Serve corporate happenings and updates, and this is filled in corporately, so there's no need to worry about editing that section. And then at the bottom of page 1 is the section where we highlight the monthly promotional days and foods that were menued. So again, this is filled in corporately because it correlates with the corporate menus for that month. Over to page 2, that top paragraph in black text needs to be written by the food service directors. We have a placeholder paragraph in there now, but you will be editing that. And you can write about anything that reflects the CQI or continuous quality improvement in your food service program. So we'll talk about some ideas for writing and some best practices for writing a little bit later in the presentation, but this is where you'll be writing a small paragraph, definitely more than just 1 or 2 sentences, about the positive things going on in your district for that month. Underneath that, there is a blank square to insert a picture that relates to the paragraph that you wrote above. And then finally at the bottom of page 2, there is a section to put in a picture of a student holding a lunch tray as well as a little quote from the student. So the lunch tray picture should be just of the student's hands as well as their lunch tray, just to avoid any issues with taking pictures of students' faces. And then the quote next to it you can plug in. You can have the student either write down a quote about why they love the lunch tray or why they chose the lunch, or you can just write down what the student says as they say it. So this can be something that's funny, it can be candid, as long as it's appropriate, or it can be something about why they love buying lunch in general, just something from a student for that month. And then all the way at the bottom is a QR code to scan to take a food service survey, along with the food service director contact information, which food service directors will fill out themselves as well. Now that we walked through editing and saving the board updates, we can discuss how to submit them. The board updates are due for submission on the 20th of each month. So for example, on the 20th of October, the September board update is due. Once you have finished your update and save it as a PDF, First, submit it by emailing the PDF version to 3 people: Wendy Torres, Chad Rockovitz, and your individual operations manager. So you're going to send the PDF version in one email to those 3 people. You are also going to submit this to your business administrator by providing a hard copy with your financials. If they would like a digital copy, you can also provide that by emailing the PDF version to your business administrator. Now I will demonstrate how to find and edit your monthly board update template, insert pictures in it, and save it correctly. Hey everyone, I'm here to do a demonstration on how to download, edit, and save your board update. So right now you can see that we're in SharePoint or the Nutri-Serve Intranet. And to get my board update templates, I'm first going to go to the Corporate Registered Dietitian tab up top. So when I click on that, there is a tab for board updates right on the left-hand side of the screen. So I'm going to click that and then go to the current year that I am working in. So you can see all the board update templates are organized by year here, and I'm going to work for this example in the 2019-2020 school year. So when I click that folder, all of the board update templates for that year are going to show up. So let's say for this example, I'm going to work on my February 2020 monthly update. When I click on that, it will download in the left bottom corner of my internet browser. And I can just click on it from there and it will open up. Okay. So our first step before we do anything is to save this to our files. So right now it's not saved. So if I was to go in and make any edits, they wouldn't save. So let's first save it to our files by going to File, Save As. And I have previously created a board update folder in my documents, which we recommend you doing just to keep everything organized. So to find that folder, I'm going to click Browse and then go to Documents and find my board update folder right on the left-hand side of this window. When I do that, I'm going to go to the 1920 school year. And then you can even have folders to separate out the months if you would like. I don't have that set up right now, but that's something that you can definitely do to keep everything super organized. So I'm in the folder that I want to keep my board update in. And before I save it, I'm just going to edit the name a little bit. So where it says AAA in the beginning of the name, I'm going to type in my district-specific 3-letter code. So for this example, I'm just going to type in ZZZ, and then I'm going to get rid of that 05. Okay, so then I'm going to click Save, and now we have our board update template, at least, saved to our files, and I can start working on it. So just a couple general housekeeping rules for working in Publisher. To toggle back and forth between your pages, because the board update is 2 pages, you can toggle back and forth on the left-hand side of the screen right here. So right now we're on page 1, and if I click on this little square, we'll see page 2. So I'm going to go back to page 1. Also, just a note, everything in the gray area outside of the actual page will not print. So we do have some arrows and some helpful hints and directions on the side of the page here. None of that's going to print on the actual document. And then lastly, if this is really small, sometimes when the board update downloads, it will download kind of small. We can zoom in on the document so we can actually see what we're typing. And you can use that little zoom feature right here, which I'm circling with my mouse in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. So I can click and drag that little toggle to make things bigger or smaller. So I'm going to leave it about here. Okay. So according to our directions and what I explained on the last couple of slides, we're going to fill in our district name on page 1. So right here is our school district placeholder. So to edit text, you're going to click where you want to edit. So we're going to click in that text box, click and drag to highlight over the current text, and then start typing. So this is just going to be sample school district. You would write in your specific school district there. And then everything else, like we said before, on the first page is filled in for you. So we have our corporate highlights right here, taking up the bulk of page 1. And then on the bottom, we have our corporate menu promotional days. So all that's filled in. All right. So now when we toggle to page 2, we can again follow our directions. So on page 2, it says insert pictures, one related to your CQI for the month, and then the second of a student tray. Okay. And then we also need to edit that little paragraph right here in the black text. So again, to edit this paragraph, to edit the writing, I'm going to click in the beginning of it, drag my mouse over everything, and then start typing. So let's say for this month, I want to focus on the new marketing that we got in one of our kitchens. So I'm going to start out by saying this was an exciting month in the sample school district as we received new marketing and signage in sample kitchen. Something along those lines. And then I would go on to write a couple sentences. So you can mention just one major topic for this little paragraph, or you can recognize a couple different things that happened. So let's say you got new marketing and you catered a principal's breakfast. You can go ahead and describe both of those. Again, it doesn't need to be super long, but we want it to give enough detail so that the board and our business administrator know that all of the great things that we've been doing in our kitchens. So let's say I'm done typing my little paragraph. Now I can move on to my pictures. So before we insert pictures in these two boxes, we first want to make sure that we save pictures to our computer that we want to use. So I have previously emailed pictures to myself from my smartphone. So we're going to go through how to save pictures from your email onto your computer so that way you can use them in your board update. So I'm going to open up my email. And I have this email that I sent to myself from my phone of a couple of different marketing images. So you can open these up just by double clicking. And then if this is the picture that I want to use, I can go to these 3 dots in the corner and click Save As. So just like I created a folder for all of my board updates, I also created a folder for my board update pictures in my pictures folder. So if I go to my pictures right here, I have a folder called Board Update Pictures. So that's where I want to save this. So I'm going to double click on that and I'm going to name it February 2020 Board Picture 1. Okay. Save. So now that's saved to my computer and out of my email. So when I go back to my board update, to enter in a picture, I'm going to click on that little icon in the middle of the screen. I'm just going to click Work Offline. If that pops up, you can just click Work Offline. And that will bring up your documents. So again, I'm going to go to my pictures and then find my board update pictures folder. Choose the picture that I want to use and click Insert. And that will insert my picture right into this little section. Now, clearly this is showing sideways. So to turn that around, I'm actually going to use the little rotate feature, which I can see is at the top of the image over the little dot. If I hover my mouse there, a little swirly arrow pops up. So if I click that and drag it this way, now it's right side up. So since it's overlapping a little bit down here, I'm just going to click and drag that picture up a tiny bit. And now we're good to go. And then you're going to do that same process for your school lunch tray picture. Then fill in the student quote with their first name and grade. And then finally, edit your contact information at the bottom. So again, to edit text, you're clicking, dragging over what you want to edit, and typing right over. So let's say my email is zzz@nsfm.com. My last name and first name, Olivia, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you'd fill all that in. Now, we want to save this version of the publisher version, and then we're going to convert this to a PDF. So before we send this to everyone who needs to get it, it needs to be in a PDF version. So I'm going to read over this and double check that everything's good to go. And then I'm going to File, Save As. I'm going to go Go to my documents, go to that board update folder again. Open that up, go to my board updates, click on that year, and I see I already have it saved as a publisher version, and now I'm going to save it as a PDF. So I'm keeping the name the same, and I'm going to go to this section where it says Save as Type, and I'm going to click the down arrow and find PDF. So I see that option right here. So I just clicked on that, and that will drop down and give you a bunch of different format options. So I'm going to click PDF there and click Save. So I know that I have my publisher and PDF versions of this month's update in the same folder. And then the PDF version will open. And I can scroll through, double check again that everything's showing exactly how I want it to. There's no typos, my pictures look good. Okay. And now I know that I'm ready to send this to Wendy Torres, Chad Rokovitz, and my specific operations manager, as well as my business administrator if they would like a digital copy. So again, I'm only sending the PDF version of the board update once I know it's all revised and good to go. All right, now we'll move on to the board update counterpart, which is the School Lunch Crunch newsletter. The newsletter covers very similar content as the board updates between the corporate highlights, district events, and student tray pictures with the quotes. It also lists the fruit and vegetables of the months that the newsletter is covering. This newsletter is geared towards parents and guardians, as opposed to the board update, which is geared towards the board and the business administrator. So since parents and guardians are huge decision makers for their students, especially for the younger students, we want to showcase the positive and noteworthy efforts that we're making in our kitchens every day. A major difference between the board update and the School Lunch Crunch newsletter is that the newsletter templates are released quarterly. So instead of being released every month, we just have editions for fall, winter, spring, and summer. Just like the board update, the School Lunch Crunch newsletter templates are emailed out and can also be found on the corporate dietitian page in SharePoint. There are multiple ways to get this newsletter out to parents, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Here's a screenshot of the School Lunch Crunch newsletter. First, underneath the logo is where the Nutri-Serve corporate topic is displayed. So just like the board update, this is completed corporately. Then underneath that is where the food service directors fill in district-specific highlights with a picture that's related to it. So that's the what's cooking in our kitchen section. Then at the bottom on the left-hand side is where the fruits and veggies of the month and menu promotional days are written out. So these are filled in corporately as well. Then to the right-hand side of the newsletter is where you fill in the student tray picture as well as a student quote in the "This tray is awesome" section with a little frame around it. So that's pretty much the same thing as you're filling in on your board updates as well. And then finally, all the way at the bottom is the contact information that food service directors will fill in case anyone wants to contact them. So as you can see, there's a lot of overlap with this newsletter and the board update. Since they're going to different audiences, you can definitely use the same content from the board updates as you do for this newsletter. When you complete this, make sure you save it as a PDF before sending it out. It's important to note that before getting this out to parents, you want to make sure that you get approval from your specific operations manager as well as your business administrator and any other administration if necessary in your district. There are multiple ways to get this newsletter out to parents. We have a couple ideas listed here. You can use more than one way or just one way, but here are the ways that we recommend. So first, you can ask your principals to email this newsletter out. Usually parents take emails from principals pretty seriously, so that can be a great way to get this out to parents. You can post it as a widget on Nutri-Slice. So you can have a button that links to this on the side of your Nutri-Slice menus. So if your district uses Nutri-Slice a bunch, that might be a great way to get it out to parents. You can also ask IT to post it on the district website food services page. So if you have this maybe next to your Nutri-Slice link on your school website, parents might see it there. And And you can also use print copies in a bunch of different ways. So you can have print copies available in the main office and the nurse's office for when parents are dropping off or picking up their students. And you can also bring print copies to district events like back to school night or wellness nights. Both of these newsletters involve taking pictures and choosing which ones to use. So let's go through some best practices when it comes to pictures. Your pictures should always be appropriate and relevant. So they should relate to what you wrote about in either your school lunch crunch newsletter or your board update. Your pictures should be good quality. So any smartphone is great for taking a decent quality picture. If you as the food service director don't have a smartphone, you can always ask one of your food service workers, managers, or cooks to take pictures with theirs. Smartphones are also great because then you can email the pictures to your Nutri-Serve email and access them on your computer. Also, in terms of quality, be sure to use pictures that aren't blurry or off-centered. In order to avoid issues with parent consent, don't use pictures with student faces unless you are specifically allowed to. Hands of students are usually okay. We want your pictures to be appealing and inviting, so try to use pictures with colorful or nice backgrounds. Remember, we're using pictures for professional documents, so we want your pictures to be professional as well. And we want to create a habit of picture taking. So if you create a habit of taking pictures, whether it is of a new menu item or a promotional day item or of a food tasting or yak meeting, it's great to get in the habit of taking those pictures so that way you have a pool to choose from when you go to create your board updates and school lunch crunch newsletters. So it just makes your life a little bit easier. Okay, let's move on to best practices in terms of writing now. On both the school lunch crunch newsletter and the board update, food service directors have to write out a small paragraph. So when you're writing, make sure you're always using appropriate and positive language. So, for example, instead of saying something like Nutri-Serve had to cater the principal breakfast, say something like Nutri-Serve had the opportunity of catering the principal breakfast. Just changing out that verbiage makes the whole paragraph sound a lot more positive. Avoid using first person. So it's really easy to use the words I and we when you're writing because you are involved in a lot of the things that you're writing about most likely. But use words like Nutri-Serve or the food service team when you're talking about things that have happened in your kitchen. Below that, I listed out some writing topic ideas. So sometimes you end up getting stumped when you have to write about something on the spot. So I listed out some good ideas to write about for your board updates and school lunch crunch newsletters. So talking about things like promotional menu items or yak meetings, catering events, wellness events. These are all just ideas for you to write about. This is definitely not an exhaustive list, but I just came up with a couple ideas here for you to choose from throughout the year if you need to. Thank you for listening to my presentation on the board update and the school lunch crunch newsletter. I hope you found this presentation informative and helpful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and don't forget to take the evaluation/quiz for this presentation, which is linked on your virtual agenda. Have a great day.